Well, tell me, mama, what's going on? Tell me, darling, what's going on?
Welcome back, everybody. The Bacon and Egg Show, episode 46, March 28th, 2021. Guys, what is going on? Glad to have you back, Mike. Jay, what's happening?
Hey, what's up, man? Not a lot. We got for a week for a sports week in the middle of March. There's quite a bit to talk about this week, and we wanted to have Mike on to dive into some of that. Mike, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. A lot of stuff going on, so excited to talk about it today.
Yeah, well, let's get into the cup of coffee here. We got a little, another national championship to report on, and it's Eddie Reese and the Swimmin Horns. The swimming and diving team won their, 15th national championship. Yeah, I mean it's easy to lose count when you start getting into the teens. I don't, it's just one of those things being a powerhouse school, But yeah, guys, this is he's the greatest. I mean, what can you say about Eddie Reese and this program that he's had going over at the 40 acres for the last, I guess we were just talking about this. He's the first NCAA coach ever, which makes some sense, to win a national championship in 5 different decades. That's not easy to do, right?
Yeah, no, that's pretty impressive. And that facility that they have there, it's to go in there and watch. It's a great place. It's a great venue to watch swimming. So if you've ever had any interest at all, I would suggest, especially after COVID's all cleared up and everything, and everybody's ready to go back, like go in and watch a swimming and diving competition at the swim center there. It's a gorgeous pool. It's and there's some impressive stuff that's going on there, and it has been for a long time. So props to Coach Reese and the Horns for bringing home a national championship and getting to light that tower orange. Mike, what did you think about all that?
Yeah, no, it's just like clockwork, I guess. But why stop at 5 decades? Like, are we going to see this thing in 2030 or what?
I mean, he's only 79, Eddie Reese. Like,
he could do it.
We're in 2021. If he can get this thing to 2030, he'll be right there on 88, 89 years old. I think swimming keeps you young. It keeps you fit. It's a great full body workout. I don't see why he can't. I mean, we all saw the video of him jumping in the pool with the team. He looked nimble. He looked agile.
I don't know if I would call that a jump into the pool. I mean, it was more of a step off of a step already inside of the water. I mean, he went into the water, but
Well, I mean, you could, call it what you want. He looked really,
when you win that many championships, you can walk into the water however you want. You can probably walk on water if you want.
They can get the mobility chair to lower him down into the pool for over the next decade, and
whatever it is, man. He's obviously got quite a run going over there on campus. So congrats to Coach Reese and the team for lighting the tower orange again. That's great. Get a Craig Way moment in here. Light the tower orange.
Say goodnight to it.
Imagine following that guy. He's taking that job. Like,
yeah.
Who, Eddie Reese or Craig Way?
Both. Both legends.
Yeah.
Well, let's speaking about following and job vacancies, a little bit of news dropped this week. Perfect timing for us to be able to do the show. Shaka Smart is out at Texas. I think we all kind of were thinking like maybe, we were discussing him getting fired and buyouts and all those things, but he took the job at Marquette. He's going back home to Milwaukee. We don't usually have this kind of luck with timing on these things, right? Like it seems like Texas football, baseball, basketball, or like over the years, Texas always kind of seems to be like a year away from that perfect kind of scenario, or a year too late. Like this just kind of seemed to work out perfectly, right? Where both parties, you could say, left on good terms. One took another job. There's the like, thanks for your time here messages. And, Shaka gets to go start somewhere fresh, and Texas gets to save some money on a buyout. And maybe as of April 1st, save a little bit more on a buyout, depending on if they've zeroed in on a certain candidate. But it's pretty good timing with all this, right? I mean, how do you guys feel about the coaching change?
It was when it came down, it was immediately that thought of like, okay, the university doesn't have to save a little face. You don't have to actually fire your coach. Allow that sort of transfer to take place. It's basically what it was. Shaka entered the transfer portal, and we'll touch more on that later. But it's like really though, it's like Shaka enters the transfer portal for coaches and goes to Marquette, and because it's a better situation for him as a coach. I mean, I feel that like I don't think he was going to succeed here, and we talked about this before, on previous shows. It just didn't seem like this was the place for Shaka to be a successful coach. And good luck to him at Marquette. Yep. They had a nice run. They'll hang a Big 12 championship banner in the arena for the season. But I didn't think he was going to be the guy to get him over the hump, and it was just the right time for him to move on. Mike, what were your thoughts on Shaka moving to Marquette?
It was interesting how everything kind of transpired. I think it is a good fit for him because this program and University of Texas, there's a lot going on here, and when you don't produce and you have high expectations, we want to know who can come in and to get the job done. So while he had a great season and really did a good job amassing a lot of talent here, I mean, I think he's going to have 3 NBA draft picks this year. You got to give him props. He did win one of the hardest Big 12 tournaments this year. So did a lot of good things. Just that 0-3 blemish is the one thing when it counts. You got to make that happen. So what's kind of crazy to me is that this is almost kind of like in a basketball sense, almost like a promotion to a Marquette school that is a basketball school, and they wanted him. So it's just kind of a weird scenario and situation that kind of brought up. He's from the area, and you guys know how he can recruit. And so he's going to amass talent there. I just think if he goes back to Shaka, Havoc, that type of style, which I don't think he fully brought over here to Texas, I think he's got a chance to be successful. And I'm not saying he's a Final Four coach, but I think he can get teams into the tournament. I think he can make some noise at a school like that with the pedigree that it has basketball wise, and without the pressure of, the athletic department and fans from University of Texas. I think he's, going to have a good run over there. So it'll be interesting to follow him from afar. But I think this is a perfect scenario where, he leaves on, you don't have to fire a coach that did win a Big 12 tournament championship. That's just a black eye when, for recruits who actually really, really like this guy. And there's some talk that potentially some of these guys might even follow him to Marquette. So we can't ever say that he can't recruit or he can't, or guys don't love him. So that's the one thing he's got going for him. That's something that's probably never going to change. But I think for the University of Texas, it's just so much more. And so I don't know if you guys kind of want to dive into maybe who could fill that vacancy. But I think as far as the Shaka thing, he made it exciting, this year, and it's just sad to see how it kind of ended. But if you can't get the job done, it's time to move on. So this is a big boy school.
Yeah,
Mike, what was the name of that recruit that that the reporter was able to get a hold of?
Yeah, so
so
there's a report on orangebloods.com that they had contacted Tamar Bates, who is the combo guard out of Kansas, who by all accounts was coming to be the next point guard, the next Matt Coleman here. And potentially might be looking to follow Shaka Smart. Even David Joplin, the big forward, might he's from up north. He might follow Shaka. So it's just going to be interesting to see. This is going to be a weird offseason. I think we'll talk a little bit about the portal and like what this new coach who's going to come in has to get done. So Kerry.
Well, Well, I just wanted to report that I just put my name into the transfer portal. Just everybody's doing it, so I just went ahead and
What show are you going to?
Oh no, I'm sticking with the show, but it's
Okay.
just why not just get in the portal and just explore the options out there. I'm joining the
I sure hope that
2,000 other
doesn't.
players that are in there. So
I sure hope that doesn't start to create a toxic environment here on the show with you
oh
being
no
in
no
and out
no,
of the
it's
portal like that.
no, it's for beer league hockey. It's the beer league hockey portal. That's
Oh.
yeah. Nothing
Okay.
related to the show. No worries here. So um
Okay. All right.
let's where were we? We were
You were portaling.
Who's the coach? Who's the next coach going to be? We
well,
got.
so on the recruiting thing,
Oh.
just before this is getting into I just wanted to mention like you mentioned these players like Bates, everybody like that are out of state players. I would totally understand if they followed Shaka to Marquette. Like there's no tie to the program. We're not talking about like a Greg Brown that like grew up, in the area, relatives played at Texas and like there's like a connection to the program there. I would totally get if they're like this is the similar with Matt Coleman, like a coach that has recruited him for so long, he has that relationship and follows him elsewhere. I mean, do we think Matt Coleman could use that extra season of eligibility and follow Shaka Smart to Marquette by any chance?
I think that if Shaka had been retained, he would have come back. Honestly, I think that Matt is very aware of how how his legacy. I mean, it's going to be perceived. I mean, that loss to AC is one of the worst in program history.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been a chance, but I think now he'll probably pursue more of a maybe an overseas career, make some money that way. But I mean, you don't know what's like college basketball is in a weird state right now. I mean, you got the the free transfer rule basically this year. So yeah, and Shaka's that kind of sport. I could see guys following him, oddly enough. So it'd be that would be a really interesting storyline for me to see how they do next year if that were to happen. But as of right now, I think Coleman's probably looking to make some money.
All right, well, we'll get back on track here after I derailed things with the portal stuff. Let's let's talk about the future here. And I think on that note, with recruiting, the name that's at the top of the list that has ties throughout the state is Chris Beard. I mean, we'll jump right into it. We talked about this with the Urban Meyer stuff. There was kind of a one clear, obvious choice when it became apparent a change was going to be made with football. And we're kind of sitting here looking at that with basketball, right? But there are some factors that could be going against this, happening. So what do you guys think about Chris Beard in terms of like before we get into the money and the buyouts and all those kinds of things, just from a pure coaching fit, culture fit with Texas, all that stuff?
Okay.
Mike, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for me, Chris Beard, I mean, he's obviously been public enemy #1 for me for the last few years. But the guy wins basketball games. So, I mean, he, obviously you can coach him up, but is not really where the future of college basketball seems to be going. So I think it's kind of interesting that he's more of a grind out type coach. He's had some pretty talented players. When we see guys like Matt McClung, who flash us, really really good offensive players playing in a fast paced system in Georgetown, and then come here and you watch them dribble the ball to 5 seconds on the shot clock, and it's just. You look at the teams that are really performing right now, Baylor, Gonzaga, Creighton, a lot of these fast-paced teams, even Texas to a certain extent this year, playing in a lot of the Big 12 schools, just playing really, really fast, getting shots up, not this defensive mindset that, he kind of brings to the table. But anytime you can play defense, you got a chance to win a game. So, obviously I don't want to knock the pedigree defensively, but is he there offensively? Or is this a case where you look at Rick Barnes at Tennessee? The guy has 2 first-round draft picks this year, and they can't score more than 50 points a game, it seems like. Every time I watch them, it's like it makes my eyes bleed watching them play offensive basketball. And that was a lot of the knock on Rick Barnes here. Great defensive coach, right, and had elite NBA players. And some of these NBA guys looked better when they got to the NBA. And so,
Kevin Durant. Oh.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the KD, it's like, had all these guys, Aldridge, just so many NBA players, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, I know the buyout comes up on April 1st. So, Jay, what are your thoughts? Potentially Beard and his system.
Yeah, Beard was a guy that even last year when we were discussing Shaka Smart maybe needing to go before everything kind of happened and there wasn't a tournament played and all that stuff, he didn't have a chance to finish the season and they ended up retaining him. Beard was already on that short list a while back, and then you see the kind of coach that he is, like you said, Mike. What's the difference here? I guess is what I'm saying. You're getting a guy that's won other places, that's taken a team to a Final Four, that is a defensive-minded coach that struggles to score the basketball at times, and you come to Texas, and I mean, if you're going to compete, you have to be able to turn it up at times. And Tech has shown that, throughout the Big 12 schedule, that when there were teams that were willing to push the pace and go faster than them and dictate the flow of the game, that was when Tech was at its most vulnerable. So when you talk about a coach coming to Texas and then you think about, that kind of describes what the kind of coach that Shaka Smart was when he was at his worst here too. So I don't know, like Beard is the big name. He would be the big fish. He is, I don't know exactly how much would change in the culture, except you're going from a guy that everybody seems to love and gives off this really good, good vibes from Shaka all the time. And then you go to a guy like Beard who is really not that dude all the time. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how this plays out because, I mean, for a number of reasons, money is a big part of this as well. They were saying, we read something yesterday that said something like they were basically offering Beard what amounts to tenure at the university, is what the report was.
At
Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you for clarifying. But Texas Tech was basically offering him that in a package type of a deal. So it's like, how do you compete with that? Is he going to come in and make more money than the football coach? I don't think that the basketball coach at Texas is going to make more money than the football coach, although, wilder things have happened and CDC is, he's going to get his guy, it seems like, when he wants to get his guy. We saw that with Sark. So it's fascinating to me because would he be an upgrade over Shaka? I think so as a coach. But is he the guy that you want to change the brand of basketball, the type of basketball that's being played at the university? I don't know if he necessarily is just that complete fit for that role.
Yeah, that's kind of where the more that we, that this seems to be a potential reality, it's more and more of those echoes of Rick Barnes and the frustrations with Rick Barnes and, and then eventually Shaka. But like, I made the Kevin Durant comment, like not getting out of the first weekend of the tournament with Kevin Durant on your team because of,
and DJ Augustine was on that team.
DJ Augustine, you had players like LaMarcus Aldridge. It took someone like TJ Ford to push this team, the Rick Barnes program, into that next level. And, we hear about Chris Beard recruiting talent, but he has a hard time retaining talent. He deals like huge roster turnover year to year with his groups. And you do wonder about like, okay, well, that might be a fit at a building program like Tech where you can basically recruit players and they will do whatever you ask of them. And especially in a defensive system, you can recruit a bunch of grinders, similar to what Shaka was doing at VCU. But when you get to a program like Texas and you're bringing in McDonald's All-Americans, you're bringing in these 5 stars that may not respond all that well to being asked to do all the dirty work that a program like Chris Beard would run. And I don't know, something just doesn't sit right with me about that. About like, it's almost like we've seen this movie before. Like, will Chris Beard get out of the first weekend of the tournament at a Texas program? Yeah, okay, great. But then what happens in a Sweet 16 against a team that plays like Arkansas or Baylor? that's going to run and gun, and he can't keep up. And how many years of like, okay, well, great, you can get to the Sweet 16, but like you're getting paid $7 million a year, and we're not getting anywhere further than that. Like, at what point do we start saying that? So I almost feel like the ceiling is it is really similar to like peak Rick Barnes.
Mm.
And
But would you take that as Texas, like over the last decade plus, it's almost, we long for the glory days of Mac Brown, right? When he was winning 10 games a year every single year and just finding ways to come up short, right? And then you have the last decade where you don't even make bowl games some years, and you have 4 coaches in a 12-year span, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, man, maybe the days of Rick Barnes, going to a Sweet 16 every now and then flashing an Elite Eight, is that what Texas basketball is? Like, is there something to be said for that? And then having somebody here that might have a ceiling that is higher, but their floor is also lower. Like, you can take a chance on somebody at the University of Texas basketball program, like you can't really do at Kentucky or a powerhouse, a Kansas,
North Carolina.
like North Carolina, exactly. Like, you can hire guys at Texas that you can't hire at those other schools, because the ceiling, the room for growth as a coach, and just what's the word I'm looking for here, where you're
No, I think you're hitting it right on the head with, like, basically you're looking at potential of what this coach could be.
Potential.
Because
yeah,
the blue bloods have the guys that are the stars of college basketball coaching: Duke, Michigan State, North Carolina. Like, you've got the legendary coaches of the game. And what was so frustrating is that Texas has been able to recruit, like with under Barnes, under Shaka Smart. You've assembled a ton of talent. I would say this year Texas had top 5 talent. Like, anybody would have taken this roster in a heartbeat. It's just sad that Shaka just couldn't put it together when it mattered the most in the tournament. But yeah, we took a chance on him. And I think if he hadn't changed his style and if we'd played faster and faster and faster, with the controlled aggression that we saw at some points during the season, but just be more consistent with it, I think obviously we would have seen Shaka elevate to a higher standard. But I don't know if he has that coaching ability. So that's definitely why we needed a change. And so I know, Kerry, you wanted to say something, but I just wanted to jump in there and to say that, yeah, Texas basketball needs someone that can almost kind of transcend what's been happening here over the last, for the program's history, essentially, in order to reach those levels. Not just a player, but a coach.
yeah. And on that note, and this is not that I'm advocating for this to be like the number one target, but do you think about what this roster would have done with someone like Musselman as the head coach? Like, how entertaining would that have been? Would it have worked every night? Probably not, but like, think about how entertaining this roster would be with that coaching and that system.
Right.
But yeah, Jay, you're absolutely right on the, like, would we take those Barnes years? Oh, given what we know now, looking back on like the Barnes era, the whole thing is to be in the conversation, right? Like, if you're getting into Sweet 16s, you're in the conversation. A bounce here, a bounce there, you're into an Elite Eight, and then, you can get to a Final Four. And Barnes got close. He made a Final Four with TJ Ford in that group, but he did make some Elite Eights, and he was close to, breaking through again. And then similar with Mac Brown, things just got kind of stale, and it was time to part ways. But I don't think there's any doubt how successful, like, where Rick Barnes' place is in UT basketball history. Like, no question in my mind. But like,
sure.
But I think with the Chris Beard thing, it just it's almost like a different conversation in the approach of, Rick Barnes had a little bit of success before getting to Texas, but going to get Chris Beard is basically we've talked a lot on here about throughout the season, like the readjustment of expectations. And I think that hiring a Chris Beard readjusts those expectations for a lot of the fan base, that there's going to be this expectation immediately of, well, this team's got to not only get into the tournament, not only get to the first weekend or get out of the first weekend of the tournament, but this team should be competing for Final Fours, because Chris Beard could do that at Texas Tech.
Yeah.
and we're paying him $7 million or whatever he wants per year and have one of the highest paid coaches in college basketball. Where are the results? We know how this fan base is. I mean, we're part of it. So
Right.
that's my only thing. Like, it's the,
If he comes in here making that kind of money, I mean, you better show me. you have maybe 1 year to figure
But
it out.
is that almost a reason why this hire can't happen? I mean, when you think about it, is that a reason? We always say all the time that money isn't the reason that anything shouldn't happen at Texas. But when you think about paying a basketball coach $7 million at the University of Texas, like, it's not that it's $7 million. It's that you're paying a basketball coach at Texas $7 million.
Yeah, you should have paid 15.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that to me it's one of the things to me that makes me feel like Chris Beard will not happen.
It's like 7 million. It's not. He's not Roy Williams yet, or he's not. He's not, like, you don't know. He's not Tom Izzo. Like, and you're gonna give this guy 7 million. That's, I think that's kind of interesting situation for that. But go ahead, Jay.
No, that was all I was saying about that was, and Kerry, Musselman, we see the brand of basketball that Arkansas has played in this tournament, and excuse me, with the NBA pedigree that Musselman brings, and that's the kind of guy, when you're talking about NBA guys, and which is something that when we were texting earlier in the week, one of you guys mentioned that they've just done such a poor job of, excuse me.
Is that the bacon and eggs coffee cup?
officially licensed. Yeah. You can find it in the merch shop. Yep.
Yeah.
Not in the portal.
Sorry about that.
No, it's
Dude, not in the portal.
it's not in the portal. It's in the merch shop, officially licensed.
What was I on about now?
NBA about Mark. I think you
Oh,
were
right.
with
So
NBA players.
when you're talking about not, one of you guys brought up not really focusing on the fact that the NBA talent that's come out of this university recently, and not really focusing on their alumni, their former players, in terms of, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like there's a connection with the players that are in the NBA and Texas, like there could be. And bringing somebody in with more of an NBA side and being able to really show off that side of what the program's benefits are, like, it just feels like that's the next step in terms of, excuse me, goodness gracious, if Texas wants to be, he's talking about this basketball program, it makes me gassy, that's what it is. It's
Indigestion horns.
yeah, ooh. The Peptos. If you have a program like this, that is, if you're serious about becoming, sitting at getting away from the kiddie table, you want to eat with the big boys as a basketball program, then the NBA players are a part of that. It's the shine that you put on that. It's all the elite programs. There's always a shine on their NBA talent. And I know, like, the Twitter account for UT men's basketball has really gotten active lately, now more recently, in retweeting a lot more of their NBA player stuff. And that's, the social media stuff it runs the world, and that's a good start. But as the pandemic slows down and more in-person stuff is going on, I would think that Texas basketball as a program should definitely, which one of you guys said that, but I definitely agree with you guys that they should put more of a focus and a spotlight on their NBA players.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, I forgot who of us brought it up. I mean, but yeah, we were talking about that with just kind of like, this is a good transition here to go from kind of Chris Beard to the next name that's being mentioned a lot here with Royale Ivy. You talk about, and we just spent some time talking about how this program is kind of stuck in this, purgatory in a way of not being that, not being good enough, but kind of being in the conversation. And then, like, the basketball hasn't been as entertaining as we would probably prefer. It hasn't really captured the imagination of, like, fans that might not be diehards of UT, like, it's not, we're kind of in this weird place. And is this the perfect opportunity to, I don't want to say use this as an excuse, but to look at the money involved with Chris Beard and say, we're not going to go that direction. Let's completely remake Texas basketball into something new. We have a new arena coming up. You know, Austin growing as a kind of international city. You've got guys like Chris Bosch living here, running a record company. You've got more and more, like, it's becoming more and more of a major player of a city. And there, you know, Royale Ivy's the name that comes up. He has those NBA connections. He's got guys like TJ Ford, Kevin Durant, Aldridge, all these guys vouching for him and reaching out to Chris Del Conte saying, this is the hire that you need to make. He's an assistant coach with the Nets who, oh, by the way, now have Aldridge and Kevin Durant and some other guys. I think like James Harden. I don't know if anybody.
You guys heard him.
I don't know, might have heard of him, but like,
he's good.
He's an assistant coach on that team. He was an assistant in Oklahoma City, an assistant with the Nets, and he's, by all accounts, a guy that in NBA circles is going to be an NBA head coach here in the next couple of years. And
but he loves
Longhorn.
This program.
He loves the program. He holds the record for games played in this program. He is, I mean, he bleeds burnt orange. And you talk about like, okay, well, we don't really know what kind of coaching style he has, but we know he's coached in the NBA, and you talk about NBA style offenses and those kinds of things. We'd at least have that, right? We can probably count on that.
Oh yeah, especially the way the NBA is going right now. I mean, everybody's playing in the 130s and 140s. So
yeah,
and coaching under Steve Nash, one of the greatest offensive point guards of all time. And he's a defensive-minded player when he was playing. So you get the combination. I feel like his ceiling, we always talk about ceiling. We love the word. I love it. I live for that word every day in DFS. But I feel like his ceiling is so high to not only gel the program, but to use, like we're saying, like Kevin Durant, not even from Austin. He loves the University of Texas. I feel like, why wouldn't you use that in recruiting? Like, why wouldn't you hype that up? Like, we should be like power forward center university with all the first round guys, Jackson Hayes, LaMarcus Aldridge, Jared Allen, Miles Turner's going to be defensive player of the year probably this year. Yeah. Like Mo Bamba's about to get a ton of run with Vucevic being shipped out. Like all bigs, talented bigs should want to come to Texas. Like that should be something that Texas is marketing to get out there. And then, yeah, he has been in the NBA and he's been well thought of. And I think Kevin Durant said that he's the best teammate he's ever had in his career. So he checks a lot of boxes, except for the boxes of him actually having a record to his name for having, coached games essentially. So Jay, what are your thoughts on Ivy and what this could look like?
Yeah, I'm going to echo what you said about the ceiling. And that's sort of what when you talk about Chris Beard, when you talk about certain coaches and you've seen their body of work, not that coaches can't win championships late in their careers, but you sort of see what you have there is taking a chance at the University of Texas on a guy like Royal Ivy. It just makes sense to me. You're not going to have to pay him as much, obviously, because he's never been a head coach. Like he doesn't have that experience. So you're not going to have to back up the truck. You'll pay him a little money. He's going to be if he would be the coach here, he would be well paid. I'm not saying that he wouldn't be, but you're not having to think about the conversation about, well, we're going to put him on par with the football coach, and then, well, you better win now. You better win this season. Then, it takes the pressure out. It just makes sense to bring in somebody like that to a program like this that's longing for some sort of
swag
to feel good about their program. But not just to feel good about the basketball that's played, but to be a confident, to be a program where people like Duke fans if you don't know somebody's a Duke basketball fan, wait 5 minutes and they'll tell you, right? That sort of thing. So like, I'm not saying Texas, it needs to be that far in the direction, but there needs to be more of that. If you want to use the word swag, if you want to use the word whatever behind it, there needs to be more of that. And when you bring in Royal Ivy and the attitude and everything that's coming in, you have the type of program at the University of Texas to make this kind of a hire. yeah, the floor, you don't quite know what the ceiling of the floor are. The floor could be extremely low here. You might not be a great head coach, but the ceiling is out of this world, and you could get the next whatever. And you can afford to do that at Texas, like you can't afford to do it at North Carolina, at Kansas, at programs like that, where it's Texas basketball. There's not this legacy of championship winning here. Just
Exactly.
Make a hire that you feel like can, try something different. Shaka was a different kind of hire. He hadn't done a ton at VCU, but you knew the brand of basketball that you were getting. It was something different, right? This is an opportunity that the University of Texas has to just do something different. And it's just, it doesn't line up, like Kerry, like you were saying, for Shaka to go to Marquette. It doesn't line up very often that you get a guy that's, a fledgling coach that has this much hype around him to get that is an alumni that, like you said, had the most games played on that, excuse me, in that uniform for the university. It doesn't come around that often. The timing is there to make this happen. And for me, Royal Ivy is the guy to go and get if you're Chris Del Conte.
Yeah, I'm pretty on board with it. I think like you said, Jay, it kind of provides that he gets some space to build out a program. That's the benefit of not being necessarily, not being a blue blood in basketball. This isn't a hire that a Duke, a North Carolina, a Kentucky, or anybody would ever make. Texas has the luxury of being able to make this kind of hire and allow it to grow and hopefully work. And if it works, then it's the ceiling, as you guys have mentioned, is unbelievable. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we got about a minute here, but so Jay, you mentioned Royal Ivy's kind of your pick here. I'm on board with that too. I think when I look at the other options, I just feel like Ivy's the best. It's the best fit. There's something that feels right about it. But I've been wrong before. But Mike, what do you think? Who's your pick? Is it Beard? Is it Ivy? Is it somebody else?
Yeah, for me, it's Ivy just because of the ceiling of program changing, culture changing, everything here, bringing everything together. With Beard, it's like, yeah, you're probably going to get a top 15, top 20 every year. But what, like we talked about, like what is it going to look any different? And are we moving forward? Because the NBA and college, we're moving on for past these, 60 to 58 games. You're still going to get these, but soon, I mean, you're going to see games starting to be played in the 70s and 80s just pretty frequently. So yeah, I think it's Ivy for me.
All right. Wow. We're pretty consensus across the board on this with Royal Ivy.
I wasn't sure that was how this was going to be before we got on today. I didn't know if that was going to be the case. That's interesting to me.
Well, guys, let's break real quick, and we can pick this up on the other side, or we can get in some other stuff. But let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Let's do it.
Welcome back, everybody. The Bacon and Egg Show. We got a special guest here to make a coaching pick, like we just made a second ago. Finn, what's going on?
Oh, well, I say a big fan of water, so you might know some. I think I just ate a big piece of watermelon.
Well,
Nice.
there's no better way to come back from break than after eating a big piece of watermelon. So I wish I was doing that right now, but let's get it.
Me too.
Well, let's get a pick from you,
Okay.
Finn. So Finn, who should be the next Texas basketball coach? Should it be Chris Beard or Royal Ivy?
Royal Ivy.
There we go.
Man.
It's consensus. That's a sweep. That's 4.
All right.
All right.
Good job,
Well,
man.
thanks for the pick, Finn. There we go. High five on the screen. There we go.
Bye.
We'll see you later, buddy.
Silly man. All right.
Wow, man, he really threw the swerve on us there. That was
Yeah, man.
What a swerve, man.
man,
Freak.
he was
That's
just
what
sitting
happens when
there.
you do live podcast.
Yeah, you don't
Yes.
even know what's going to happen.
He was sitting there during the break, just hyping up Chris Beard, talking about the motion offense, all these different things, and
He gets on camera
and he gets on and goes Royal Ivy,
Swerved us.
special guest, man.
Man.
Come on.
I mean, he's right. He's right. But, whatever.
All right. Well, thought we were gonna have someone was gonna pick Chris Beard. So
Yeah, I thought so too.
to transition off that and pick this conversation back up, we all kind of think that Royale Ivy's the best fit. Do we think that that's actually going to happen? I'm curious where Chris Del Conte's head at is with this. He's mentioned before, like, his criteria for selecting coaches. Hasn't he said, like, success as a head coach at multiple programs, competing at the national level? We look at his hires before, Vic Schaefer, you know, and what he's doing with the women's team, Mike White with softball, track and field coaches. Sarkisian's a little outside of that box, but he's had success at multiple programs, just maybe not as a head coach, but like a high upside, a high ceiling kind of head coach potentially with Sarkisian. Where, this is a two-part question. We'll start with Jay. Where do you think Chris Del Conte goes with this, what he's thinking, and who do you think his pick is going to be?
You know, Sark wasn't exactly somebody that was on my radar at the time. It was one of those things where there were plenty of guys that had been discussed, but until it happened and you're like, man, like, yeah, I could totally see that working here. And I think Del Conte he's good at raising money, and I think he's good at hiring coaches. I think he's good at finding the right person. At least, you know, you go out and you pick that guy, like you said, that's the big winner. You go get a Vic Schaefer to coach the women's basketball team. And we offline, we've expressed our admiration for that man because he's a hell of a coach. But but that's, again, you can list off these coaches that Del Conte's brought to campus that have this winning pedigree. Royal Ivy obviously does not fit into that mold, you know, and it's almost like, is it weird to say, like, well, no, hire a coach that at the University of Texas and that you know and give them time to learn. Whereas football, you obviously don't want that. You don't want that to happen. But in basketball, it's almost like I know earlier. I know I was almost like giving a pass to Del Conte for, you know, to rebuild this program and hire an unproven head coach. Do I think that's what he's going to do? Man, I don't know. He has a track record of hiring coaches with experience, and I feel like there's going to be a name that's going to start surfacing, you know, within the next week or so as this tournament starts to wind down, and coaches are farther and farther removed away from these seasons. I feel like we're going to hear a couple of names start floating around that maybe not necessarily, you know, like we talked about Musselman earlier and the type of basketball that he plays in the SEC, or he's brought to the SEC. Do you have a guy like, is that somebody that would be in CDC's sights? I think he should be. I think
checks the
somebody
boxes.
at least on a short list. Absolutely. Do I think Chris Del Conte is going to hire Royal Ivy? I don't. I don't think he will. I'm not sure the direction he's going to go. I want to go to Mike here. I want to get a little feedback from Mike here in terms of some possible names that maybe we haven't discussed on this show necessarily, or maybe even a name that just nationally makes sense that could come in here and sort of, you know, like we're looking for that ceiling that a coach might have.
Yeah, so my take on it is, as much as I want Ivy to be the next head coach here, for reasons that extend beyond, you know, just I need somebody that's a top 10. I need to be in the top 10 every year. That's not what Texas basketball is right now. We enjoyed it all year this year, but how often in the program's history have we enjoyed a season where you're at the top, you know, top of your conference, and you know, we got a trophy this year, and that doesn't happen very often. And what I want is to establish that type of culture. How do you do something like that? I feel is something that Ivy could bring to the table here. And I'm not saying that no other coach could do that, because I think as the tournament starts to wind down, you look at guys like Eric Musselman, who brings NBA pedigree. He brings, you know, the style that college basketball is kind of shifting to. He can recruit. He's working the transfer portal like no one's business. If you looked at their roster last year versus this year, he's got 4 guys that are in his rotation that were playing at other schools. And that's another thing, almost bigger than recruiting right now. And you look at Nate Oates as the same. He went and got the kid Jordan Bruner from Yale. who was one of the best players in that conference, and now he's the starting center for Alabama. And he only plays 15 minutes, but he brings defense and other things. And so I think the transfer portal thing with bringing in some of these guys from the SEC have really kind of honed in on. I think that's an interesting dynamic. I think those guys have to be under radar. We kind of talked about John Beilein, more of an old school coach. I mean, he's got a good resume, obviously, but I don't know. I just feel like that's more of a contingency plan. If you can't get some of these other guys, that's more of like a we kind of talked about like maybe a 5-year plan instead of more of your long term. I think this program needs a jump start, man. It needs something to build excitement and build a brand. There's a brand with Texas basketball right now. We laugh and joke, but this is always a football school. What would be nice to be a football and a basketball school? Like
It's possible.
I don't think there's anything wrong with being both. I mean,
Ohio State can do it.
Yeah, Ohio State.
Florida can do it.
Exactly.
Alabama's trying to do it. Texas can do it.
Yeah. So for me, it's like I just wish we could take the gamble, because I feel like the reward is so much higher by taking a chance on someone like Royal Ivy versus someone like Chris Beard. But am I going to be upset that I can feel like Chris Beard could come in here and be top 15 if he's here for 10 years, 7 out of the 10 years that he's here? So, I mean, but does he change the level of the program is kind of where I'm at, or are we kind of what we had with Shaka, which is kind of what we talked about earlier. So,
well, I kind of posed a question to Mike offline, and I'm going to ask this now for you as well, Jay, and a good discussion here. If you were given kind of two choices, and one of them is Chris Beard, he wins 10-year contract and he wins one national title in that 10 years. But like essentially the brand, the program, everything's kind of the same, like in terms of where things are after that. Almost in a way, if you want to think that TJ Ford and Texas won a national title in 2003, then everything played out the way that it did. Nothing really changed. Or your other options, Royal Ivy, he gets a 10-year contract. He doesn't win a national title, but he's in the conversations, but the brand is built. The floor has been raised to now being in that discussion on a year-to-year basis of being one of the premier programs in the country. And there's an identity. Do you take which one? Where do you go?
Are you saying Chris Beard would be Texas basketball's version of Philip Fulmer?
Yeah.
I'm
basically.
Serious.
That's awesome.
You win a ring, right? You win a championship at 10. He won a national title at Tennessee with T. Martin as quarterback, and really didn't do much else at all at Tennessee, right? So basically, to win a national championship in anything? I mean, that's the only thing that makes it difficult, is because you would have a national championship. You could say, look, there has been a national champion at the University of Texas. But to just be in the conversation every year, I think that defeats the long-term purpose of where you want this program to be. Like, if you're saying if the question is would I want Royal Ivy to come in here and in 10 years makes 4 Final Fours, a couple of Sweet 16s, and get bounced early a few times, as opposed to a Chris Beard coming in and in 10 years actually getting and winning a national championship. That's tough, because it's a championship. You hire coaches to win national championships. If you want Ivy to raise up the level of the program for a decade, and then you're expecting the next coach to come in and take the thing, I just don't know that it works that way. You can plan it out, you can want it to be that way, but I just don't see that being, especially at the University of Texas. So I think I would take the ring. If that was the guarantee, I would take the ring. Mike, what did you say?
Man, I'm just, obviously I want the ring, you know what I mean? But there's no reason this program shouldn't have I hate saying this because it sounds so Texas, but every
that's what we discuss here.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh God, it's like, top 10 for every, program. Basketball shouldn't be any different with the resources that you have. So for me, it's like, I want this program raised. I want fans to fill up the Moody Center. Like, I wanted to, why can't we be Mark Few? Mark Few took Gonzaga and raised. Now Gonzaga is a premier, and they are turning into a blue blood. Like you're
Exactly.
seeing it. It's like playing NCAA on PlayStation. Like you build the program. Same thing with Duke. Duke was, come on, like what was Duke before Krzyzewski, and now it is a premier. Like so. I don't know. I feel like Texas football has that. Texas swimming and diving has that. Like Texas baseball kind of has that right now, not to the level of those other two. So why can't basketball take a chance and get to that level of just like, we have the resources. It's just everything is lining up. It's just waiting for someone to take the reins and really elevate this program. And I just don't know that Chris Beard elevates the entire program for years to come. But I do think Chris Beard is interesting because he could be here for a long time. I don't see him going to the NBA.
No.
Royal Ivy, it's a little scary because even though he bleeds orange, if he performs well here, there are going to be NBA teams that are coming back and throwing tons of money at him. And so what is we don't know Royal, obviously, so we don't know, like, will he be a Mark Few and stay for 20, 25 years? I don't think he would. Why would you? Isn't the goal to keep going higher and higher? So it's like, yeah, I could see that. But, Chris Beard kind of checks the boxes of like, yeah, are you going to get consistency? Yeah, but does he raise the program level? I don't know. Well, Ivy could raise the program level, but like you said, who's coming in after that? Because then it could quickly sink. So, Kerry, it's your question. So let me know your answer, man.
It's extremely difficult for me because, I mean, there's only been one program in this entire state ever that's won a national championship in basketball. And they don't even have the same name anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's, if you got like, Tech
That's
got close
crazy.
a couple years ago with Chris Beard got them. They were in overtime of the national championship game against Virginia. They were that close to being only the second program in the entire state of Texas to ever win a national championship in basketball. Phi Slamma Jamma didn't do it.
Yeah.
Rick Barnes and the TJ Ford Final Four team didn't do it.
Right.
There's been other good programs, other good teams that the state has seen. I don't know, maybe Baylor does it this year. I hope not. But like, but from a selfish standpoint, I don't exactly root for Baylor, but like
they don't deserve it.
U of H is in this conversation too this year. Honestly, I mean, they're still in this thing, but like, it's when you think about it that way and you say, Chris Beard will get you a ring. It might not be pretty, and in years it might just be bad. Like it might be some of the most miserable basketball you've ever watched in like down years, and you're not winning and those kinds of things, but he will win you a national championship within a decade. Like I have a really hard time saying no to that.
Well, Mark Few hasn't won a title, but he's raised the program's level
for sure. But like we think about, Texas football is a blue blood, but how many, we won one national title since 1970.
Feels like more.
But like when you think about it in absolute terms, yeah, there we go, right there. But when you think about it like in absolute terms of just winning a championship, having that banner, having that ring, having those things, does it ultimately matter about the culture shift, the perception? Winning basketball fills seats. A national title winning program will fill seats. Will it be entertaining necessarily? Maybe not. But like, I have a really hard time answering that question, but it's hard to say no to the ring. Like, it's hard to say, yeah, I'm going to turn down a guaranteed national title, which obviously this is just a hypothetical question here. Like, there's no guarantee. We're not A&M off, giving Jimbo Fisher a trophy with a blank year on it,
Yeah,
like,
they got close.
National champions 20
closer.
blank.
So I got two things on that. So yeah, I mean, obviously, you bring up Houston. I just want to talk.
Oh man, here. All right,
please. Just
Mike's gonna rant on the Cougs for a minute here. All right,
give me like 90 seconds of this. Okay. They just went ahead and brought their conference schedule to the NCAA tournament because they beat a 15, a 13, and 11, and now they're going to play a 10 to get to the Final Four. So I don't want to hear anything about the Houston Cougars on this show for a long time. All right. Second thing is that if we went out there right now, I'd probably ask my wife, I'd probably like the Royal Ivy if she would take the ring. I'm sure she would say yes. So I don't know, man. Like, I feel like it's really tough to pass on that.
right.
It's just so tough. But yeah, from a selfish perspective, I just want the program to be lifted because it has the opportunity. It should have the ability to do that. So
a championship ring can lift the program, but it doesn't guarantee it.
right.
You know, like that can help if you win a national championship and you start taking care of business. Sure, that can make it go quicker. You can become a more relevant program faster if you're winning a national championship, if you do everything else right. But I think that's the difference for me in this hire is I know I was saying that in that specific scenario, like I would take Beard over a Royal Ivy type of a hire. I don't know. Like I know that Chris Beard has gotten there. I know that it seems almost counterproductive to my original thought because I do think he's a winning coach. I don't know if he's a championship, like a national championship winning coach, like that run that they went on to make it to that national title game. I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like it is more important for the optics of what this program could be for, you know, to get a guy in here that can elevate the program with or without winning a national championship, rather than just saying, okay, a guy like Chris Beard's going to come in and in a decade is going to win a ring, but really won't get out of the first round many other times. You know, we'll play a specific brand of basketball that he's going to have to evolve if he's going to stick with what college basketball is becoming. That is the hesitancy on a Chris Beard hire specifically for me. In that scenario, winning a ring might change something, but I don't know that he's necessarily like even winning a ring can elevate the program of Texas basketball the way that we're discussing right now. And that's why, like, yeah, of course, if Chris Beard was the hire, I'm not going to sit here and pout about it at all. You know, that's not, that needs to be clear. Like, I don't think any of us would sit here and be like, they should not have hired Chris Beard. No.
No, I'd be thrilled about it.
Yeah, like, and that I don't know if our tone towards like how we've discussed Chris Beard necessarily, you know, lended to that before, but it would be a good hire. Just feel like for what this program needs in terms of a shot in the arm, a chance to elevate it to something that Texas basketball has never been before. Do you want to get a guy like Chris Beard, or do you want to get a guy like a Royal Ivy? Do you want to get a guy like an Eric Musselman that is sort of like Mike was mentioning before, changing what SEC basketball? He's changing a culture. That's what he's doing. That's the change that you want to see in a program, in a culture, in a conference. He's shifting, you know, he's changing the game there. So is that the type of thing you want to get somebody in there to totally blow the doors off and try something new, try an approach you haven't used before? Or do you want to plod along the same path and hope that you can stumble your way into a ring?
Well, let me ask you this on this note. I'll ask you guys, what is your perception of the University of Virginia basketball program?
Oh my God, you literally just read my mind, which is, that was insane. University of Virginia, hot take. So they're built on defense, right? The thing is when they won their title though, they had the number 4 pick in the draft, DeAndre Hunter. They've had a couple other kids that are, one is playing for Charlotte, I believe, the point guard. And then they had another kid that's playing overseas. So they had some NBA talent there. So what happened this year is that they don't really have an NBA player. So they play that like 50s. I want to play in the 50s style basketball. And then they got busted by Ohio, who has Jalen Preston, who can score. And that's kind of what we talked about when we were talking about the pre-show with some of these guys like A. Smith and, you know, some of these other kids that can really fill it up. Isaiah Miller from UNC Greensboro. It's like you get one of these guys and they get hot, they're going to bust you out of there, right? So what happened with Virginia, I think this is where you're going with it, Kerry, was like, you know, you win a national title. You lose to a 16. You win a national title.
They were the first number 1 to lose to a 16. They had been in the conversation for years. I mean, I think for like the last dozen years or so, Bennett's had them in the national conversation. But like, they win their ring. What is your perception of that program? Like,
nothing. Not
just in a single year, but like in a whole view, a 10,000-foot view of the UVA basketball program.
Well, I think they've won the ACC the last 3 out of 5 years, and no one cares. Honestly, it's it's still North Carolina and Duke, because the style of basketball is oh God, it's so bad to watch. Like, that's such a
So,
great win.
so what would take away that ring? Let's say they lose that national title game to Tech.
Yeah.
What is the perception of the UVA program?
Yeah, just a tough defensive team that's going to grind their way to wins. That's going to be a top 15 to top 20 team. And then they lost to a 13 this year. So yeah, like, it's that's my fear, is exactly what you brought up right now with Chris Beard. And I'm not trying to slam Chris Beard, but it's kind of the same thing. It's like, no, the ACC still belongs to, now if they're winning, 80, 85, 81, and being consistent, they got to the Sweet 16 the year after and the year before. And still won the national title, I would feel like, oh, here comes Virginia's program, kind of like a Gonzaga. It's like, oh, Gonzaga hasn't won the title yet, but the program, and like, you're starting to get the elite level recruits that Mark Fee's getting at Gonzaga. Virginia's not really getting that. Like, they're playing with top 150 players, not top 50 players right now.
So if you take exactly what happened, like the last 12, 13 years of Virginia basketball, and apply that to Texas and say that is going to be what Chris Beard does at Texas, from the upsets to the national title, the whole picture of it. Like, we've seen it. We've already seen. I know Virginia is not Texas in terms of like program profile nationally and the attitude, the perceptions of the universities and those kinds of things. But like, did Bennett really change the trajectory long term of the UVA basketball program by winning that national title? You mentioned it's still Duke and North Carolina in the ACC. Like, does Chris Beard winning a title at Texas knock Kansas off of that blue blood perch in the Big 12? Probably not. Just like if Tech would have won a couple years ago, that didn't put Tech at, like automatically lift them into the stratosphere of elite programs.
But if Baylor doesn't win one this year, but they're still being lifted. If he continues to have success over the next 5 to 10 years,
well, for sure,
then they're going to become a blue blood of the Big 12. Yeah. So that's Jay, you want to jump in on this, man? Like that man, I love the Virginia comparison, because that's my fear, man. Like,
yeah, people hate watching Virginia. They win, but people hate watching them. Like, it makes your eyes bleed.
It's not the brand of basketball that you would, pay money to watch, as they say. But but I mean, but the thing is he has a system, it works for them, and it lends to the wide range of outcomes that Virginia gets. It's exactly what happens. Is you can make a run and win a national championship playing that brand of basketball. You can also lose to a 16 seed
the year before
as a 1 seed the year before. That's the type of outcomes that we're talking about. We've seen it.
And lose to a 13 this year.
When he leaves that program, that's just another program.
Right.
It's not, oh, this is Cavalier basketball or whatever, this is Virginia. No, it's like, okay.
It's like the polar opposite of Villanova. Like, Villanova won a couple of titles, but they lost their best player this year, and they still got to the Sweet 16 and gave Baylor a pretty good run. And they're going to be consistently, now they're becoming back to being a blue blood of that, the Big East. Like, yeah. So no, great comparisons, man. Like, yeah.
But that's I think we're all saying that the fear about with Chris Beard is that basically, like, that's kind of the scenario. You get a national title, but like, if after 10, 11 years or whatever, Chris Beard moves on, Texas basketball is right where it was before Chris Beard, because the identity is still kind of the same as what it was before. And that's why I think, look, again, I have to say, like, we don't know what Royale Ivy is. And I think that's what makes this so intriguing, is that it could be a complete and total reset of the program and a total restart with a new arena in a rapidly growing city, a dynamic city with all these aspects that someone with a new vision can really start tying in all together. And we don't know if he's going to do that, obviously, but like, the opportunity is there for it. And you might not get a national title out of it, but like, it could completely change how Texas basketball is viewed in 15, 20 years you know, as like, okay, well now this is maybe not a championship, but one of the big boys that's going to, you know, they're putting guys in the league, they're entertaining, so on. So,
And this, the
Like, does
thing
the
for me is,
national? Okay.
the
Go
thing
ahead.
for me is like the conversations that we might hear is like, well, that's not what Texas basketball is. It's a football school. That's fine. Like, okay, I understand that Texas is a football school. It can also be, you can also have a good basketball program at a football school. You guys just made that, you know, you ran through the list earlier, and it's like, why are you shooting? Why would you shoot for, you know, well, we're pretty sure this guy's good. Why wouldn't you just go for, well, this could be program changing? Is Chris Beard program changing for Texas Tech? Yeah. Like, yeah, they're going to, if he stays there, they'll name the court, the arena, they'll build a statue, they'll rename every whatever, weight room after Chris Beard. If he stays there, whatever it is, every dumbbell will have his face on it. If he stays there, that's fine. If that's what he wants and that works for them. Is that what at the University of Texas, what you want? And that to me is that's the disconnect here. And, you know, when we've talked a lot about how the game is evolving, the game is changing, you have to keep up with what is happening these days. And Texas is a step behind and has been a step behind for a while now, despite having the talent that they've had on campus. Can you take the next step? That's what we talked about with Sark after Tom Herman was fired. Is Sark going to take the next step? The hire made it feel like Texas was taking the next step. Now, will we see that actually within the program? Will this hire for Texas basketball allow them to take the next step? Or are we just going to be, again, is it going to be more of the same? Because it's Texas basketball, and that's what you should expect of it.
I think the Sarkisian hire for me is the one thing that gives me, I don't want to say hope, because again, if Chris Beard's the hire, like I'm incredibly excited about that and happy to move, like, let's go. But it gives me a little bit of like, it's a little bit of a signal that I think that CDC might be considering Royale Ivy more than we probably think. Just because the Sarkisian hire kind of has that same tone of like, is this the like slam dunk home run hire that like an Urban Meyer kind of thing would have been? Yeah, but again, Urban Meyer would have been like a few year project and maybe he wins a national title and moves on, but then where's Texas football? Sarkisian's a guy at the point in his career and everything he's been through and all those things. Obviously, it's not the same as like Royale Ivy, but like the upside, if this works, it takes Texas football to the moon. And if it doesn't work, well, you know, he's making about 5 million and like it was worth a shot. It looked like a high upside kind of thing. To me, that makes me think that maybe that Chris Del Conte is looking, that maybe this Royale Ivy thing kind of goes outside of the box of what we traditionally, what he's made, success at 2 programs and all those things we discussed earlier. Because it kind of fits that same bill. If it flops, it flops. Well, it didn't cost you 7 million a year to do it. If it works, this could really work. And this could really be program changing and program defining and define his legacy as athletic director at Texas.
Yep. Yeah, he's making 2 hires within a short amount of time that will define his legacy at this university. There's no doubt about it, Kerry. And that's the Steve Sarkisian hire, and whoever he hires to be is. It doesn't matter what happens in like baseball is great, like women's basketball, great. Like you're making softball, great. You're making these wonderful hires, and as those programs start to elevate because of the coaches that are at the helm there, you'll start seeing more and more positivity in terms of championships and things like that come from that. It doesn't make a difference in the grand scheme of things with Chris Del Conte's legacy. It's football first and then basketball. And these hires right here will define his legacy and will determine, his stance in the lore of Belmont, if you will.
So just like it defines Steve Patterson's legacy.
His is tied to beer in the stadium.
Beer. Yep.
I can watch these pathetic coaches. And
Mike, do you have your strong and smart Texas shirt that they were selling after those? After the those are gonna be collector. They already are collector's items.
Oh man, so bad. Like, jeez, Steve Patterson. Where is that guy? Like, he's probably writing a book somewhere. Like,
Probably still collecting checks from the last 3 jobs he got fired from, and they're still paying him off to go away. I don't know, man, but he's probably went back to the pros. Like, that's where he belongs.
Let's find out.
Really though, like in professional game, like. Yeah.
Oh man,
Anyway.
the hair.
Let's see where he is. Steve Patterson, sports executive. That's his headline on. What's he doing now? Oh, well, I don't know if he's still doing this. He is in 2017, he was appointed president and CEO of the Arizona Coyotes in the NHL. If anybody follows hockey, that is the most dysfunctional dumpster fire franchise in the NHL. So basically not surprising that Steve Patterson, at least recently, I don't know if he still is, the president and CEO of that team.
These sports teams treat him like that hot chick that has like serious issues, like that you hear from your friends, like, dude, don't get with her because I just it didn't work out. You still get with her. You
haven't seen her OnlyFans yet? Wait, she has an OnlyFans?
Oh,
whoa!
I bet they're a profitable franchise though, and that's why they don't give a damn about what everything else goes on. I bet they actually find a way to make money.
They went bankrupt. The NHL had to actually step in and like temporarily purchase them to keep them from completely folding. Like it's the worst thing ever.
Well, I was trying to throw the guy a bone there because I know he made Texas some money, and like you said, he brought the beer. I was trying to give him something there, but never mind.
And here's a twist that I know Jay will find particularly interesting. They've been one of the teams mentioned with a potential buyout by Tillman Fertitta to be moved to Houston to play in the.
Talk about toxic ownership.
The Kerry's face right there, just looking at you, Jay, was amazing.
I was just waiting for the reaction here, like when Tillman Fertitta.
Yeah, he sure did. Yeah.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Tillman Fertitta. Yeah, that's talking about dysfunction.
Yeah, let's not get into Houston sports.
If he owned the Astros, he'd be in the dugout calling his bookie. Like that's the kind. I mean, like Mattress Mac is wild, man. That dude's a baller.
Yeah, Tillman's going to build an arena down on the Kemah Boardwalk to like the Landry's Shrimp Center or whatever, and the Golden Nugget Center. That whatever. Anyway, we're going off the rails here. I know we got a couple minutes left. I know we had some other stuff to get into, but honestly, it's nothing of real consequence.
Yeah, we'll catch up on some spring football stuff. It's kind of crazy. I mean, there's a lot to talk about because like we would normally be spending time talking about spring football right now, but because of the COVID break that they're on, there's not really a lot going on. So Jake Smith did break his foot. Was it the first day of practices?
Yeah, really on brand for Jake Smith.
Yeah, unfortunately, all the talent, but the best ability sometimes is availability, and he ain't always there. So hopefully he can heal up. But that's really all that's come out of spring football right now, and that's not really the way you want to start a coaching tenure. But that's really all that's happening right now in the 40 acres in terms of football.
Yeah, Texas baseball still cruising.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Texas baseball has won the first 2 of that series against Oklahoma and going for the sweep today. And then got A&M midweek, I think. Little trip out to the Brazos Valley area.
At the Bluebell Stadium right there.
Yep.
Yeah. College Station where the
We're running out of time. It's going to cut us off. It's been a pleasure, guys. Let's do this again soon. We might have a coach to report next time we record. So later, guys. Hook 'em.
Hey, hook 'em.
ATX representing. Fatal, baby.